It's my favorite non-restaurant.
Shannon, you're good?
Yeah.
All right, let's start. Sorry for this delay. Good evening and welcome to this July 14th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting of the Village of Lake Bluff Village Board of Trustees. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ryder,
Here.
trustee Hatch.
Here.
Trustee Freed.
Here.
Thank you. Next on our agenda are the non-agenda items and visitors. For public comments, the Committee of the Whole allocates 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the Committee of the Whole on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the Committee of the Whole is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. I do not see anybody on seat to speak. Do we have anybody online willing to make a comment, please?
No one has raised their hands.
And I say we move forward to our general business. The Committee of the Whole will entertain requests from anyone present to modify the order of business to be conducted. Did we get any requests? And so therefore we move on to the consideration of the minutes from the June 23rd, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there any motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Are there any changes? I see no's. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
The voice vote.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. And we're moving on to our agenda for tonight. That is a discussion regarding possible restrictions on e-bikes and e-scooters. Drew?
And I'm going to turn it over to Chief of Police Matt Smazinski, who has a presentation. But there was a memorandum in your packet, kind of giving general outline of the issues that we've been seeing at the staff level and hearing from residents and businesses in the community. And turn over to you, Matt.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And we're here tonight for proposed e-vehicle restrictions in the Central Business District. And again, part of this will be to provide a little background, some history, some understanding, hopefully, of what we're seeing and the prospects of what we're looking to do. So our cause of action, personal e-motor driven vehicles. As you see, our concerns, first one, reckless use of e-motorcycles. So let's hit that real quick. What we mean by reckless is those actions that are willful and wanton and dangerous, right? Driving wheelies, right? Going around vehicles unsafely, huge excessive speeds on side streets, on sidewalks, those types of things that really constitutes some dangers to our community and even those operating a vehicle. And you'll see there, we'll talk about it later, but that's an example of one of these e-motorcycles that we'll further discuss. So the response to the community, numerous resident and business complaints about reckless e-vehicle use in the Central Business District, again, some other areas as well. Police observations. So this tends to be youth that we're seeing utilizing these vehicles. Again, it's that in-between age of not having a vehicle and not necessarily just being on a bike or a little scooter, that you're just kind of pedaling around, right? It's just kind of in the middle age. However, we're kind of limited on what data we do have because with juvenile laws, Juvenile Justice Act, it's very limited on what we can, one, disseminate, two, actually keep records of due to automatic expungements. And then
I was just going to say, add a little bit of flavor to this. So we can tell you from just a dive into the data is we know that there's more bicycle accidents that occur in the village. That's just the way it is. And that these e-bikes, I think just the e-bikes, e-scooters that.
Yeah, very limited. It was about roughly two in the last couple of years.
Aware of.
But doesn't constitute that there isn't a concern of this behavior, right? So trying to make that clear.
Anecdotally, a lot of close calls here and there, CBD with patrons and so forth.
And by more, you're talking about more over time or more than there are e-vehicle accidents? More.
Certainly more that have been recorded over time.
And just
Bicycle
observation
versus car, bicycle versus bicycle, bicycle versus scooter, bicycle versus bicycle. Yeah.
my observation has been that this explosion in the numbers has been fairly recent.
This is
Yeah.
true.
And I don't think it's just here, we're hearing that, more at the macro than micro as well, right, with our other communities. So a little bit of that background. So Illinois law provides classifications of e-bikes and e-scooters, and we're gonna go into that a little bit more in the next few slides. But we have new impending legislation that could also alter some of these definitions. And this is kind of part of the issue is the changing landscape, and sometimes it changes quickly. For example, Senate Bill 2285 should be on the governor's desk now. And that will actually change the definition of a bicycle. By changing it, it'll make it actually every human-powered or low-speed electric vehicle with 2 or more wheels, not less than 14 inches in diameter, designed for the transportation of 1 or more persons. Why are we saying this? The state hasn't fully come out with clear and concise regulations, legislations for all these vehicles. We're kind of working with what the state has, and then also a lot of municipalities are working with what's not there to try to create some legislation, local ordinances to kind of address these issues in their communities. So again, some of the gaps of concerns with the current regulations is the definitions. The municipality regulations also vary quite wide. We did a analysis with our staff looking at the different municipalities, Deerfield, Highland Park, all the way down to like Glen Ellen, Roselle, and evaluating how these different communities are establishing regulations locally to respond to their community concerns. That includes speed, regulation of a complete ban, a partial ban, or someone even more limited, like why we're here tonight.
One thing I'll add, I don't know if you saw that I circulated an article from the Chicago Tribune. It was one of the headline articles today, talking about a patchwork quilt of regulations throughout the Chicagoland area. My experience has been when you see those types of headlines, inevitably some sort of state action follows to try to have uniform regulations to enforce. I had a call this afternoon with this morning with the chief of staff for State Senator Julie Morrison's office, and she actually said there really wasn't anything pending that she saw, and she was going to share it around, but that's nothing on the horizon, immediate horizon. So doesn't mean that it won't pop up in the next session, but at least at this very moment.
They're not in session until.
That's right. Yeah.
Like,
Fall.
Yeah, there's a,
maybe not, yeah.
and they did pass some legislation that came out at the end of last summer. And we'll get into that in a second, but even that was sort of like, no one realized it was coming. It's kind of, there's some issues to that, and we'll dive into that in just a moment here. But as it stands, there is 3 types of classifications in Illinois statute: a class 1, a class 2, and a class 3. What we're trying to show here is some of the differences in these, but also if you notice, and we kind of did this intentionally with class 2, class 1, 2s, and 3s could actually all look the same. What do those all look like? Bicycles, right? The little caveat is we put the one in the middle that looks a little different. Reason being is we do see some of these. This is a pedal/throttle. Why we're kind of focusing on this a little bit is this was one type of vehicle we're considering to ban in the CBD if we go with as it sits. Reason being is that doesn't take pedal power. That could actually be done with a throttle and a throttle only. But again, the issue with that too, as well as it could also look like a class 1. And unless you inspect it, you may not realize that it's a class 2. But by statute,
All this feeds into it's very difficult to enforce whatever regulations you have.
very difficult. Unless also with the class 3 though, you'll see a difference that actually is 16 and plus to operate that on the roadway. And again, all these have to be operated on a roadway, cannot be operated on a sidewalk by statute. So scooters, I know we're seeing these as well, right? So it's a stand-up electric motor, 10 miles or less, must be 18 years or older. But here's where it is. Here's the problem with why I say 18 years and older. There's a state law that says, municipality says you can do it. You have to be 18 and older. There's a whole slew of parts to this. However, where the law is the issue is that anything that's built for 10.1 miles an hour or over through legal analysis doesn't fit this.
What?
The legislation was written in a way that it's so specific on the miles per hour that if it's built to go 10.1 miles an hour or faster, it doesn't count. So then what? That means, you know, a 13-year-old can not ride something that goes 9.99 miles per hour, but that something built for 10.1 miles an hour or faster,
Yeah.
whatever, right? But toys. So what we're trying to do is still allow these types of vehicles in the central business district that are battery powered with a parent or legal guardian, right? And we've defined what a legal guardian is in our ordinance. But this is, you know, mom takes little Timmy out for, you know, an ice cream cone and he's driving the Power Wheel. We're trying to be receptive of that as well and not be prohibitive of something like that.
Provided they don't occupy a downtown parking space, take over the parking inventory.
For sure.
So on the sidewalk or the street?
That would be,
permissible?
that would be sidewalk. That'd be sidewalk only. Mhm.
Which is generally how it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna be putting one of those on.
I think the
street.
goal was to say, if the babysitter is taking, you know, the kids around and they have those, that would be okay to, that would not be a violation if the small child was driving that on the sidewalk in the CBD. With adult or parental or guardian supervision.
And two, that's a larger example, but there's smaller ones too. That might be like a little powered, I don't know, Caterpillar or something that's small. That might be a little different than that. And we're trying to be receptive of that. But then we can really get into this e-motorcycle, which we really want to kind of have some focus on as well. When we've looked at this by our ordinance, we see this as a motorcycle. The letter E in front of it is merely just the engine, right? It doesn't matter if it's combustion or E. These are vehicles built to go off-road. They are, in all essence, it's just a motorcycle.
So are there classes of these as well?
No, this is just,
So anything like this that doesn't involve a pedal has to have a license plate on it? Is it
you would have to follow the process through the state to get it
licensed?
licensed, you know, properly upfitted to be used on a roadway.
But I've seen these, well, maybe I haven't, but
You may have, you probably have.
okay.
And this is where you're probably seeing like wheelies going down the street and that type of thing, because we've definitely seen them.
So you have to have a license plate and a driver's license, both of those.
For use on roadway. Otherwise, it's an off-road vehicle. So it's,
And so if a vehicle like that is used, say, in Sunrise Park, outside my house, back and forth, that would be okay by a 14-year-old?
no.
Okay.
And Sunrise Park, well, if it's in the park, we're also trying to work with our partners at the.
Yeah,
at the park
I
district. Yeah.
understand, but that's off-road.
It's off-road, but where you can legally off-road use it, right? So is it, you know, does someone have like a, you know, like a park around here where they can go and use it that's authorized to do that? Then so be it. If it's like a, like, I don't know if the, DC does the Waukegan, there used to be the bike one. Is there also like a dirt bike track or anything? There's just places sometimes they can do that.
I see, so a
So-
dirt bike track or
For all
something.
practical purposes, it's a motorcycle.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
Licensed like a motorcycle, the
Even though
driver
it-
has to,
built and marketed towards youth, it's a motorcycle under Illinois law. And that's what we're using as a tool to enforce when we see kids out on this. That's what we're enforcing with.
because they're driving without a license, right? They're
Yes.
driving
Yeah.
a
They're operating a
vehicle.
motorcycle without proper.
So
they're
maybe
not-
we should delay their actually getting a real driver's license, like it does if you're driving a car.
I also have a question about these bikes where I was looking online today. So there is 1.5 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, that is maybe a 50 cc, and there is maybe over 4 kilowatts, that might be a 125 cc, but really when you look at that, so for classes of license, that is L and M. But then when you look at the same kilowattage, the same power, the same HPs, some have accelerations that are 3 or 4 seconds to 30 miles an hour. And I found one that was about $2,000 that went from 0 to 31 in 1.1 seconds.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do you make sense of that? Because I mean, and then there's the age where you have to be over 60 for sure. And
Yeah,
then if you get a driver's license, there's all these requirements, because I went through that last year.
Mhm.
That is, you have apprenticeship, you have supervisory driving, supervised driving, written test and all that.
Correct. And that's the point, right? Is you have a vehicle here that's really, in my opinion, intended for, someone who understands, this operation, that understand that this is not an on-street vehicle unless it's properly upfitted, and we're seeing use of this. And that's concerning, right? So that's part of why we're here, and part of what we're trying to do is prevent any sort of further issues. So what we've done in part of the ordinance is start at least, so besides the e-motorcycles, we have that, we think well in our ordinance. However, again, we can have further discussions about that. The proposed ordinance, if you see here, the map on the left is from the zoning ordinance that shows the central business district highlighted in that, yellowish tannish color there. And so what we're proposing is that the e-vehicles, the pedal vehicles, skateboards, all those, if they're going to be used on the sidewalk, they have to be walked. So there's no pedaling down the sidewalk. There's no skating down the sidewalk. That we're saying, in quote, like we have outside now, that we've been trying to get voluntary compliance, walk your wheels, right? And again, the goal of that being is someone steps out of a business, someone is at our farmer's market, that there's not this chance of someone riding a bicycle or riding one of these things and hitting someone. Or you have an accident themselves, right? Something is in the walkway, is in their way, and they make contact and they're involved in a crash. So we're trying to reduce that potential with this. What we also mentioned was the no use of the class 2 e-bikes in the central business district, again, because those are the throttle ones, right? They can do pedals, but they can also just throttle, right? And so the thought being that they cannot accelerate too quickly with the throttle bike versus having to pedal in the pedal assisted e-bike. So it's one thing we've put in there as a consideration. That's a little different than some other places, but we think that might be help bridge that gap where class 1 and younger, you can be under 16, where that class 3, you can be 16 or have to be 16 and older. That this middle piece here, if we remove that and allow just a walk of that, should hopefully take care of some of that.
So my interest is in making this as simple as possible. And when we start talking about classes, that, I get worried that that's going to get lost. I also have heard, maybe it's an urban legend, but there's ways to make these bikes go faster than they're supposed to go. And I understand what you're saying about throttle assist being different, but the class 3 bikes can go even faster. Supposedly the class 2 bikes are limited at 20 miles an hour, supposedly, while class 3, even though you have to pedal, it can go 28 miles an hour. I guess when I read this, I just want to make it as dummy proof as possible. And so I wonder if we need to make this distinction of this class 2 banned on the roadway in the CBD. I guess I just think we need to make it simple.
So to the point of that, or to hopefully address some of that, is the 1 and 3 have to be pedal assisted.
Right.
Right.
I understand.
So, and as you saw, that they look a lot like bicycles because they are, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if we see someone driving down from, the train station to the end of the central business district and they haven't pedaled at all, and we know they're probably hitting the throttle, right? So that gives us an indication of that's most likely a class 2, and they're not using the actual pedal assisted. Whereas the other ones, you actually have to pedal and keep pedaling for it to go. And even at 28 miles an hour, there's, bike riders that can easily hit 28 miles an hour. So, I mean, it's not that there necessarily are, but.
So that piece just, I think, complicates it for me. Roadway, sidewalk, I guess that's one thing that I'm puzzled about. I also am concerned outside the CBD. What are we doing outside the CBD? And it sounds like we've got a couple of different problems that get kind of conflated here, but one is illegal use of motorcycles, which is not really addressed by this. We've got kids driving without a license, and tickets, just like they were driving the family car without a license, ought to be being issued, right?
I think that Matt made a very important distinction in this conversation, that is, and I think it addresses your question, that is, you have e-bikes and e-motorbikes that are motorbikes. And if you separate those two issues together, the motorbike issue you're saying is not addressed, is actually an enforcement issue,
It is.
and that's it.
But I think we need a really, really clear communication. And that's, sorry to take over, but but my thought is wheels on sidewalks, no wheels on sidewalks unless you've got a small child in a e-toy or whatever, or a stroller or something, but otherwise, no wheels on sidewalks. Walk your wheels on the sidewalks. Doesn't matter whether it's assisted or not, pedaled or not. And then when we get, that's the rule in the CBD.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah, yeah.
So what about if I have a bicycle with no engine and is it, from your standpoint, Matt, can I operate my bicycle on the sidewalk today?
So today, no. So what we're trying to say is, I don't know, Mrs. May, if I'm missing here is, and let me make sure I hit this right. Everything is walk your wheels, except for toys on the sidewalks. E-bikes
Today?
can only be, no, for this ordinance.
Okay,
For this
yeah,
ordinance.
that's what I thought.
For the e-bikes, they have to be in the roadway by state law. Right? State law says you have to be in a roadway, not on a sidewalk. So if they were on a sidewalk, they'd have to walk it anyways by this ordinance.
So I think what we have here is what you're describing is in fact what you're looking for in terms of simplicity. This is as simple as we can probably make it. It's not so different from what the city of Lake Forest did last year. And that's purposeful. We've tried to hold hands with what they're doing because we know their kids are going back and forth.
Yeah,
So we try to keep it simple and say CBD, this is the rule, CBD, this is the rule.
right.
We would even plan on using the same signage so kids would recognize what this means. And we actually did that. You know, we've had this Walk Your Wheels campaign to trying to get voluntary cooperation, not working out so well.
Yeah, so that takes care of the sidewalks for me. But as to the roadways, I think we
Outside
have
of the CBD?
anywhere
in the CBD?
roadways. Right, I think what we have to do is address the speed. I think, I think, I know we don't have a speed gun that's gonna tell us with certitude
Right, I think-
what people are, how fast people are going, but I think the speed and the recklessness, but the speed is really what's worrisome, rather than whether they're throttling or pedaling. I appreciate that there's maybe a speed of acceleration difference when you're able to do it with a throttle. But to me, I won't really care if somebody's coming down the roadway, going really fast down the roadway if they have a throttle or not. I don't know. So what I was proposing is any kind of wheel on the sidewalks in the CBD. Absolutely. We make that completely clear and consistent with Lake Forest. On the roadways, we have two problems. We have e-vehicle problem. Part A is e-bikes, and part B is e-scooters, but we have e-vehicle problem. And then we have a motorcycle problem. We have a flat out motorcycle problem, kids driving motorcycles. I think we have to just crack down on enforcement on that. I don't think it's because they're popping wheelies. I think they're driving without a license, period.
Well,
I
we
really
are
do.
enforcing, in the defense of the department.
Ticketing. Well, I don't mean to attack the.
No, but I'm
department,
just saying they are actively, when they see a police
Ticketing.
car, they're gone. They run and they are very agile, more so than a vehiol. And our police cars don't want to
Police
be.
out in the neighborhoods, and I probably have seen in all my days here, because they're out there policing for bikes. But then that leaves roadway use of e-vehicles that are not motorcycles. So those are the ones that I think we need this really bright line rule. And what I can't figure out is why we can't just have something like anywhere you are, CBD or anywhere, your limit is 20 miles an hour.
And I would agree with you on that. The one question I had, but I think still stands, is if I have a bicycle without the E in front,
Mm-hmm.
can I ride? Because I want to simplify that as well. I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
okay?
so you can ride bicycles in residential areas.
Can I ride my bike on the sidewalk?
Yes, in residential areas.
And so I could be in the CBD also riding my bike on the sidewalk. Not that I want to, but I could do that.
We're proposing not
So
anymore.
both bikes and e-bikes, no.
We're
Nothing,
proposing
yeah, no.
no more.
walk-
Nothing,
Nothing,
okay,
nothing. Totally walk.
all right.
Totally
What-
walk.
Right now skateboards are banned, I know, because I
Mhm.
had a kid
Thing is-
ticketed for skateboard.
So what we're seeing simplifying is nothing on the sidewalks, no class 1, 2, 3 on the sidewalks, no bicycles, non-electric bicycles on the sidewalk. You simplified it.
Yeah, everything is a walking except for the little 3-year-old and, with a parent and a
Correct.
power wheel. That's
Yep,
as far as we go with something being allowed. And obviously like any ADA type stuff, obviously that's built in there as well.
yes,
So that we're receptive of that.
okay. And you're making the differentiation, that is, the distinction, that is, anything that is motorcycles must follow the law, and that's a completely different issue. So if we can separate that, we are getting much simpler in the conversation.
So literally in our ordinance, it just says motorcycles. It's all it says. Nothing, it doesn't define it by combustion or E, it just says motorcycles. And so we've used that as our enforcement tool, as to enforce the motorcycle aspects of this.
So if we have a kid that is 13 using one of these motorcycles, you are showing a motorbike that is 2 or 3
CBD, the rules that you proposed make sense on the sidewalk. I think assisted should maybe never be on a sidewalk.
Well, yeah, so they're not riding on it. They're just walking it. So.
No, I know, I mean,
you know.
and never, even outside of the CBD, why do people need to be on a sidewalk on an e-bicycle? Yeah, why do people need to be on the sidewalk on the e-bicycle? Anywhere in the
That-
village.
Well, I would say, we talked about this. I've had a conversation with Regis about this and Matt. It's like, well, what's the problem we're trying to solve?
Yeah,
Yep.
And the data that we received is more about the e-motorcycles, first and foremost,
motorcycles,
e-motorcycles, yes.
licensed motorcycles.
That are being ridden by youth,
Yeah.
right? Everywhere
Mhm.
at high rates of speed. And then managing the CBD and trying to keep that a safe place for patrons and merchants and visitors to our downtown. Then the third kind of tertiary area, and this is not as many, but I recently heard something today about somebody complaining about youth on a scooter on a path in Tangley. That's the first one I've heard.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know that, like on my particular street, there's lots of small children riding scooters. I think it's okay. I mean, that's my own personal experience that I've observed. I don't know if that's the problem today, but I mean, to me, it's like, it's a toy du jour, right? It's the idea of that's what people are using.
I think to your point, what is the intent? To your point, what is the simplicity of the intent? Okay, that's basically where we're trying to do. What I've heard people saying is the motorcycle is easy. This is enforcement, fine. We got that. But from a bicycle, e-bicycle and bicycle, what we're saying, what I hear at the end of the day is don't be on the sidewalks, period. And if you're in the CBD, walk it. That's it. I think this is the essence of what we're trying to say.
Well, I think the rub with that, I think some parents won't want their kids riding those on the streets, that they feel safe with them on the sidewalk, but not in the
True.
streets.
True.
And we've heard that over the years about bicycles as
Well,
well.
bicycles, that makes sense, but if
Yeah.
you don't feel like it's safe, don't get them an
Yeah.
e-bicycle.
Well, but the
No.
e-bicycle by statute, you have to be in the roadway.
E-bike, you have to be in the
E-bike,
right way.
Yes, so I was trying to get back to you. E-bike is by statute in the.
So
roadway.
even if, so today, nobody can ride their e-bicycle.
So his pedal bicycle is a different story than an e-bicycle.
Even pedal assist
Mhm.
e-bicycle, because
Mhm.
it has assist in it. Okay, so that rule is already there. The rule that even though you can pedal your old fashioned bicycle in any sidewalk, anywhere in Lake Bluff, except after the statute in the CBD, if that bicycle that you're pedaling also has a motor on it, get to the street. That's that rule.
Class ones and class threes.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, get to the street. Like, we can't have
You
people
can't
like
make the distinction.
parsing
You
this.
don't know when a class 2 is. This is the problem. This is the simplicity aspect, that is, you say yourself, well, I don't know what the class 2 is, or the class 1 and class 3 until I stop the bicycle and look under the engine. So
But then that goes back to well, with those examples would be the ones that, those class twos.
I
tend to
don't,
look
I don't
like
want
those.
anybody to have any excuse that they're confused. Oh, I didn't know it was a class 2. Oh, why not just like, if it's got a motor on it, it better be on the street, anywhere in the village.
Mm.
If it doesn't have a motor on it, it has wheels, walk it in the CBD, period.
And we can change that class 2 back to as it is now, that all e-bikes are in the street and then not even worry about class 2s.
you agree?
I don't know why that's objectionable. I really,
Do we have a consensus on that? Pat?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna make a similar suggestion, so.
So simplicity prevails.
And e-scooters,
same thing.
same?
You have to
Well-
walk them.
You have to walk them in the CBD.
They can't be in the
Sidewalks
They can't be, that's, Yeah.
on the side. So the simple rule we're talking about for the bikes, if it has a motor on it, are scooters allowed on sidewalks? And I think that's what you're asking.
So I'm asking.
My immediate thought is no, but I don't have a kid at
Walking or
that
riding?
age.
Well, like my kids
Right.
have to ride
Right.
on the sidewalk to get to downtown.
I mean, think about it. So if your kid takes West Scranton, that is 176.
They have to.
Yes, Scranton.
And because they're, I don't remember how old your daughter is,
They're 12.
but I don't want your child to be on 176.
Yeah, no,
provided
no, that's
by-
right. That's right, that's right.
So, I mean, we need to be flexible on that too.
But the issue is that by the state statute, technically it's illegal for them to ride it if they're under 18 and it's built to go under, so if it's.
But they are.
so-
back.
I'm sorry, say
Yeah,
that again.
yeah, I mean, this is this weird part of where we are with these things, right? Like, it seems very, it was, at first when that law came out, I was like, oh, scooters are banned. Oh, wait a minute. It's saying that, if it's over this, so the one little pen stroke in there changed that whole thing.
Yep.
And even if that was the case, we would have to pass an ordinance to allow for it, even those that are 18 or older. So we as a municipality would have to come back and say, hey, we're at least authorizing these low-speed scooters in our own ordinance for even people over the age of 18 to ride it.
So how do we feel?
So
about that?
scooters on sidewalks, is that those,
But not in the CBD, they can. walk.
CBD still got to walk your
You can
wheels.
still walk them in the
Yeah.
CBD, I think that
Yeah.
rule is clear, but it's whether or not electrified scooters are on the sidewalks.
Village-wide speed limits for those vehicles, at trails, anywhere, just village-wide, this is a limit. We'll see if we can make that work.
Yeah.
For any,
Is that for any motorized?
so those are the three simple rules. I'm coming up with three simple rules. If it's in the CBD, walk anything that you can walk in the CBD. Outside of the CBD,
Scooters only,
scooters on the sidewalks,
okay.
okay, bikes on the sidewalks, not okay if they're motorized bikes.
Yep.
But
And
that's not
then
ordinance, it's already
the
established by law.
third rule is nowhere, and is it okay to go over X mile an hour?
20 or 28?
I think it's 20.
Class
28
3.
seems fast.
28 is class 3.
Who is class 3?
But do you know if a 20, a class 1 to a class 3 from your cruiser car, you'd be able to say, oh, that's a class 3?
Yeah, and that's, like I said, the only difference we were seeing in some of those was some of those class 2s that looked like old school motorcycles.
Yeah.
And that's what we had like in the picture there. Those were the ones that we were trying to address, because we do see those. That can't just be throttle assisted versus pedal. So that's why we were trying to bring that distinction to you.
So what we're saying is class 1, 2, 3, regardless, they're all limited to 20 mph to fit your simple rule on the road outside of CBD. That's it. That's your rule number 3, Suzanne.
Yeah,
There's one fourth rule that I heard brought up that we talked about at staff that was not in here was what about people like two kids on a scooter or 2 kids on a bike?
I think Susan
Oh,
let me start
yeah.
bringing that up
That-
briefly.
yeah,
But
I saw 3 people. I saw 3 on a scooter the
What's
other
been
day.
Little.
Honestly, they weren't that little.
In the statute, it doesn't allow for it, right? So, I mean, but again, that's the one that's not really applicable
Yeah.
here. Is that something that? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I,
I don't think we got.
so in addition to these rules, reckless, we can define what is reckless, right? So number 4 is no reckless driving. One example of reckless driving is 2 people on 1 scooter. Another example is popping wheelies. Another example is, I don't know, fast acceleration, deceleration. I don't know. We could come up with examples, but I think
Well, reckless driving is
on a
established in
scooter.
statute. I mean,
What's that?
reckless driving is established in statute, but it doesn't say anything about 2 people on it. That would just be a separate
Local ordinance.
local ordinance.
Yeah. Clarity. Is that a consensus? Is too
I think
many?
we have to do something like this. Otherwise, we are going to be addressing these issues. We're going to be Highland Park, which is going to say, before you can ride an e-bike, you're going to have a license. I think if we don't put in measures like this that are clear and understandable, then the pressure is going to be there to go to nobody without a license. And I think that's going to be
So
not the bright line rule everybody wants.
I have a friend who comes and works out with me a few times a week, and he lives in Lake Forest and he rides an e-bike. I don't know what class, probably class 3. So does that mean that when he would need, it would be subject to our rule if you were to put a license on top of that bike, or how does that work for people from other communities coming to us?
So like, for certain parking regulations, like overnight parking, they're posted at the entrances to the village, right, to inform those coming in. So probably the same notice would have to take place, wherever there's accessibility to those locations, so like CBD, like Lake Forest does with, Drew, do you have that slide real quick? So like in Lake Forest, there's the top right sign there, bikes and e-scooters must be walked, and it says, the violate, it says, violators may be subject to. So that's what they use, which is again, similar to the picture that we've been using. So that's what they've done to notify for the walk of the wheels. For speed limits, I'm not sure that would be regulatory for us, if that'd have to be like, traditional traffic IDOT size or.
What is your question?
So how do we, if you say that we need to, in order for me to ride an e-bike in Lake Bluff, I need to have a licensing step?
No, that's
didn't
what
say
she's
that.
trying to avoid.
That's what you were not saying. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Or-
saying we
okay.
need to come up with rules that people can understand, that parents can say, look, you're gonna be able to get a
Operationally,
license when you're 16 if you ride that bike.
Forget about what I said.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm concerned that the push is gonna be to go the way these other communities have gone.
Just ban it.
Just ban it. And I think that there's kids that are taking their bikes to school and it's gonna be a real issue. On the school board, we were always concerned about all the bus, or all the kids lining up, or all the parents taking the kids to school all the time rather than using the buses.
So no tandem.
So our ordinance doesn't include a fine, but it looks like the other municipalities, most of them do. What was the thinking there?
So, well, part of it too is the deferment if possible, but there should be under the fine fee schedule. I think it is already correlated in there because it's in a section that's already established.
Okay,
So this isn't necessarily like a new ordinance. This is building off of what's already,
got it.
Building on the skateboard.
yeah, building off skateboard.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we have,
We have the skeleton. Do you want to see it again in a workshop or another committee of the whole? You want to see it at the village board?
I think we should see it at the committee of the whole, because I think the community really cares about this. I really do. And the news about Highland Park is starting to spread. I'm starting to get this, well, Highland Park banned them. Why don't we ban them?
Kat and Shayna, what do you guys think?
I agree. I think the community wants to weigh in. I know there are some people here tonight too.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Drew, I can step out here.
So it's this consensus for the time being?
And since there's only 3 of the board members.
Yes, exactly.
Here. All right, let's turn this over to the community. If you want to address the community, please walk to the dais and state your name and your address, please. Yes, on this subject.
Hi, I'm Chris Claywitter. I live on East Sheridan Place. And just yesterday, I saw 3 guys coming coming north on Vincent Court, turning onto East Sheridan Place, going west, riding one of the motorcycles that we're talking about. And I kept thinking, I have no idea what this is, but I know it's not legal. And he was doing wheelies, and then he was up on the seat standing, going down East Sheridan Place. And I just thought, how do you enforce anything? I mean, they're gone in an instant. The 4th of July, I know this is a separate issue, when they were setting off fireworks across the street, I watched the police try to catch them driving through the green space of the middle school multiple times. And the kids just evaded them. They had a scout on an e-bike that would go down to Artesian Park's path, stay there and watch, and then come back and give the okay to everybody. And then they set off their firecrackers, and I should say fireworks. And the police were they were stymied. They couldn't do anything. The kids hid in the bushes. They went down the street. The squad car went over onto Circle Drive, and parked, turned its lights off, and the kids were there to watch. I mean, they saw it all. I don't know how you enforce this. I mean, they are so stealthy. They know all the streets, they know all the little alleyways, they know the trails, they know the parking lot at the middle school. They know how to get to the park. And even if you wanted to take a picture of them, it happens so quickly that by the time you get your phone out, they're gone. So it's a problem. I did speak to one police officer. He told me that the kids even throw water balloons at them. I don't know if anybody knew that, but it speaks to a brazenness.
Thank you, Christine.
I'm Sid Smith, 506 Forest Cove Road. To summarize what Ms. Ryder said, if it has wheels, it's vehicle. If it has motor, it's motor vehicle. Vehicles require some training to operate. Motor vehicles require some specialized training to operate. We've been talking a lot about where the vehicles are used, but we've not been talking about who's using them. If any of us want to use a motor vehicle, we have to have a driver's license. We go through training. It's verified by testing Department of Motor Vehicles. We are allowed the privilege of operating a motor vehicle. And pardon me. So in that training, we come to understand the rules of the road. And the rules of the road function to keep us safe, but they only work if everybody knows the rules of the road and everybody knows how to obey the rules of the road and is expected to obey the rules of the road. If the adults in this room were to operate their vehicles in the way that some of us have seen the children operating vehicles, the police would pretty quickly pull them aside, running stop signs, running red lights, speeding, weaving, just a number of things that would not be acceptable if we were to do it. And although we might make the argument that they're children, that's precisely the issue. They are children. I've talked to officers here, to officers in Lake Forest, to officers in Highland Park, and one of the themes that keeps coming up is judgment, courtesy, situational awareness, impulse control. You talk to a psychologist, this is what one of the officers said. If you talk to a psychologist, they'll tell you that the human mind is not fully developed until the late 20s.
25 for a kid, for a boy. Yep.
The impulse control, the judgment and such, it's just not there in children. And we all recognize that. But we aren't taking the steps to assure that the operators of these motor vehicles are indeed qualified to operate the vehicles. So I think we agree that operating vehicles are a privilege. It facilitates mobility and broadens our worlds. And there is a place for electric vehicles. There's no question of that. It has a lot to do with sustainability, smaller vehicles, lower environmental impact. But could we recognize that vehicles have a place, but we need some guardrails. And the guardrails aren't simply about where they're operating, they're also about who's operating. I think our current experience illustrates that an absence of regulations for the vehicles creates safety issues in the community. And that's why I have hopes that we will come up with guardrails that are appropriate for not only the vehicles, where they're operated, but also who is operating them. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Sid. I think you represent a good portion of our concern. Thank you.
George Russell, 448 Gurney Avenue. I came just in the wild chance that no one on the board thought it was a problem. I think everybody in the room is on the same page. I happen to live in a location where I figure I'll probably have a pretty good chance of seeing the first really serious accident. Drew happened to be in my driveway about a week and a half ago when 3 young men on e-motorcycles headed northbound across the Gurney Avenue footbridge at faster than any car I've ever seen drive on Gurney Avenue in the 37 years I've lived there. They did not slow down at all. no visibility entering the roadway, clearly an example of the teenage brain not being evolved. So yeah, it's a problem.
Thank you, George.
So is the line between what's an e-motorcycle and an e-bicycle clear? Because it is, so those guys would have had to be licensed. If they were driving a motorcycle, there would have had to be a license plate on the back of it, and they would have had to have had
Yes.
driver's licenses.
Yes. So that's where, and that's where we're trying to also like trying to dispel some of these like, oh, there's an e-bike complaint.
Mhm.
Well, that's what, like, Chris, you're asking some of the differences, like what's what, that's part of the educational component here. What we're trying to do is like, we say pegs, no pedals. Right? So I don't know if you really see it well, but this just has pegs and there's no pedals.
I see.
Right? So that goes back to what we're talking about even with the class twos, of having pedals, but also just a throttle. Okay? So that's where this whole thing is a little like confusing at times with the e-bikes comparative to e-motorcycle, right? So those.
I was up in breakfast, Bluff, and some young man rode up on an e-power bike. And when he went inside, I took a picture of the motor on the bike. It's a 72-volt motor.
Yes.
I looked it up online. That equates to 17 horsepower. And according to the manufacturer, is capable of 61 miles an hour.
Yes, that's, we discussed that earlier too, is that that's part of the issue, right? Is that these things, when we go back to these things. It's a motorcycle.
But did it also have pedals? I'm just trying to understand, did it also have pedals?
Did it look like, Drew, can you go back to that other three?
Yes. It did have pedals.
Did this, was
So
it this,
that's what worries me.
like this? You know?
No.
No.
It looks,
Go back to that other one.
Go back to the
That-
photograph of the first, yes, that's almost exactly what it looked
But
like.
it still had pedals.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I guess maybe not.
I have to, forgive me, I have to picture again.
Absolutely.
You're right, I don't believe it had wheels.
And so.
Excuse me, you don't believe it had,
And-
you're correct.
And I think that's the concern.
For you.
This is the-
It definitely said 72 volts on there.
This is the concern we have. So the Vespa that is outside is mine. It's 159 cc, M driver's license. My acceleration from 0 to 30 is probably 5 or 6 seconds if I'm lucky. That I can buy one of these. It's about 100 cc equivalent, and I have an acceleration from 0 to 30 miles an hour in 1 second. Okay, so there's a complete disconnect in between what is available today to what now is becoming available from an electric standpoint. And that's the confusion from Matt, that is, what do I do with that? You know?
And part of it too is we're just, to point out is,
Right.
these are expensive, right? These are not being purchased by kids themselves. These are $3,000, $4,000, $1,000 vehicles, right?
Yep.
So trying again to get also through to parents and guardians that, you're buying a motorcycle potentially. This is what it is. So.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay.
Are there any more comments in the room?
Hello, Carrie Steinbach. I live at 475 Arbor Drive and just wanted to say everyone had some really good points. I do think that there is a huge distinction between the bikes, the motorcycles and the scooters, and it could have a significant difference when coming up with the ordinances. I do believe these vehicles aren't going anywhere. They're going to be a real part of how many of our residents, especially our students, are getting around. For some, it's only practical to get to school, practice, or a job, or to the train station. And thanks to the bike path, it connects our neighborhoods to downtown. The mobility is safer and more realistic than ever. In particular, communities like Knollwood and the Sanctuary now have better, safer access to the rest of the town, which I think is a big win. These neighborhoods are part of a broader community, and access, especially for kids, isn't just about convenience, it's about equity. And of course, safety matters. I've been on both sides of it. That's why I support us clearing clear, common sense guidelines, things like speed limits, required lights and brakes, staying off the roads, and not reinventing the wheel, but just localizing smart, proven regulations. We can and should define where these vehicles are allowed: bike lanes, multi-use paths, safe residential roads, and where they're not. And we should require helmets for young riders and provide education to ensure
Can we
everyone.
please, can you hold for a second? Can we focus the conversation on the days, please? I'm sorry about that. Please. go
That's
ahead.
okay. I'm used to background noise. We should require helmets for younger riders and provide education to ensure everyone understands the rules, whether they're riding, walking, or driving. While we're here, I just would like to address a little something deeper, that there's kind of a disturbing amount of online shaming, trolling, and social media around this issue. That alone is problematic. Even more concerning, we're hearing reports of kids being physically stopped by adults in the community, even grabbed off their bikes, to debate the legality of their use. I find it completely unacceptable. I do think that there's a small group of kids that you could easily find that are causing most of these problems. Whether or not you agree with the vehicles being on the roads, I don't think the adults should ever be laying hands on another child or confronting them in that way. We're trying to keep the kids safe, not intimidate or endanger them further. I think the bottom line is we can protect the kids without policing them. I can't spell. We can be a town that welcomes forward-thinking, accessible transportation and still prioritize safety. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any more comments?
I just want to make sure it's clear. Vanessa Grom is the one who had sent me that previous email. So I just want people to know those were her thoughts.
Thank you. Seeing that I do not have any more comments in town, do we have any comments in online?
Anybody participating through the village's Zoom meeting and you wish to comment on this topic, please raise your hand and you can be recognized at this time. No one.
Thank you. So I think we have a direction, a consensus for staff tonight. Consensus is also to continue this conversation, to confirm the conversation with our 3 missing trustees tonight. And so, but I believe that we have a pretty simple, rule-driven consensus for our police department, to Matt and Eric here. Thank you. So,
Motion to adjourn.
and so I think we're done. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, and we are adjourned. It is 7:12. Let's get back together at 7:15.
7:15.